There's something obscene about a hotel hallway at 3 a.m. The carpet muffles every step like it's hiding something. The lights hum too bright. The air tastes like breath that doesn't belong to you. Circulated, cleaned, recycled again and again, like lies passed from one mouth to another. Room 918. My name on the booking. My card on file. My space. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't even meant to be a reprieve. It was a line in the sand. A line I thought they'd respect. The knock came like a hammer, 3 deep, deliberate blows. Not asking for entry. Demanding it. I stood. Walked toward the door. Looked through the peephole and saw the thing I'd been pretending not to fear for years. My stepson, Troy. 6 feet of resentment with a jaw clenched tight and nothing left to prove, except that I didn't matter. And behind him, barefoot, in a thin hotel robe with her arms wrapped around herself like she was the one exposed. Amber. My wife. Her expression wasn't rage, wasn't grief. It was something colder, exhausted, dismissive, like a nurse tired of explaining a diagnosis the patient refuses to accept. Open the door, Troy growled. I didn't, so he kicked it in. The latch held for 1 second, maybe 2. Then it cracked, splintered. The sound wasn't loud, just sharp, final, like a tooth snapping in your mouth. He stepped in like he owned it, like he was doing me a favor by not breaking more. I didn't move. I stood there, watching my wife step into the wreckage with him, her bare feet silent against the hotel carpet. Don't escalate, Amber said. Her voice was soft, controlled, like I was the one who needed handling. Just give him the room. Strange. After everything I'd done. Every bill paid, every hour worked, every insult swallowed. I thought the betrayal would come with shouting, accusations, a final blow-up. But it didn't. Came like this, quiet, surgical. 2 people standing in my room, not asking me to leave, telling me it was never mine to begin with. I packed in silence. No one helped. No one apologized. No one looked surprised. I zipped my bag, unplugged my charger, folded the receipt from the nightstand and tucked it into my coat pocket. I slid my card key onto the dresser. Amber didn't look at me. Troy sat on the bed. My bed, already scrolling through his phone, like I was a maid who'd overstayed his shift. I walked past them and didn't say a word. The door barely hung on its hinge behind me. I took the elevator down alone. At the front desk, the clerk asked if everything was all right. I said yes. That's the thing about leaving. If you want it to mean something, you have to make it clean. No scenes. No noise. Just absence. Just the empty space where you used to stand. By 3:30 a.m. I was back in the rental car, heading north out of Reno. The lights of the casinos flickered in the rearview mirror. Red, blue, sick gold. Like signals from another life. I didn't call Amber. I didn't text. She didn't check on me. When I got back to Spokane, I did what no one expected. I started exiting quietly. I didn't leave the house, at least not yet. I didn't pack a duffel bag or storm out in the middle of the night. I stayed. I smiled. I ate dinner. I let them believe I was still in it, that nothing had changed. But inside I was flipping switches. First, the tuition transfer. Troy's university account had my card tied to it. That card had paid for his courses, his books, his housing, even that nonsense student activity fee. They always slip in at the bottom like a joke. I logged in, removed the card, and marked the account as inactive. Then came the shared phone plan. Amber had put me on it years ago, for convenience. Her name was on the account, but my money ran it. I canceled the autopay. If she wanted her sons to keep texting at midnight and watching YouTube on unlimited data, she could call her ex-husband. She could call their real father. Next, the car insurance. Then the Spotify account. Then the joint Amazon Prime. One by one, I erased myself from the infrastructure. I was the ghost in the machine, and now I was exorcising myself. I kept records. Every login. Every payment. Every cancellation email. I labeled the folder Reno. Just that. No drama. No threats. Just an audit of every place my presence had kept their world spinning. The next Sunday, I made breakfast. Bacon, eggs, toast, the usual. Troy came downstairs late, shirtless, scratching his stomach like he lived in a frat house instead of a home built on my money. He didn't say good morning. I watched him eat. He didn't thank me. He never had. Amber came in later. She poured her coffee, smiled like nothing was broken. That was her gift. The ability to float above disaster like it was just bad weather. Like her son hadn't kicked in a hotel door. Like I hadn't left at 3 a.m. without a word. Like I was the one who owed them something. She didn't ask where I'd gone. She didn't ask how I'd gotten home. She just drank her coffee and reminded me that her family's peace was built on my silence. I kept up appearances. I answered texts. I mowed the lawn. I paid the electricity. But the lines had been cut. And they didn't even know it yet. Here's what people don't understand. When a man leaves, it doesn't always look like a slammed door or a suitcase by the curb. Sometimes he leaves with a click, a deactivated card, a canceled transfer, an email to HR saying, "Please remove this dependent." They thought I was still there, but I was already gone. I had tried. God knows I had tried. I came into their lives like a volunteer firefighter stepping into someone else's burning house. And for a while, I thought I could hold it all up. I thought I could be the answer to every question their real father had left hanging. I paid. I stayed. I sacrificed. But they never stopped treating me like a guest. And Reno, that door, that soft-voiced betrayal, made it final. It wasn't just the door that broke. It was the idea that anything I gave would ever be enough. And if I couldn't be their father, I wouldn't be their wallet either. Amber called 3 days later. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just to ask if I'd seen Troy's financial aid letter. I was sitting in the garage at the time. Oil-stained concrete, cold socket wrenches arranged like weapons on the wall. My sanctuary. The only part of the house that hadn't been claimed by her son's mess. Old sneakers, empty chip bags. The stench of entitlement left unwashed for years. Her voice came through the phone like she was reading from a script. "There's been some kind of glitch with his tuition. Says unpaid. Did you change something on the account?" I didn't lie. "Yes." Silence. "You what?" "I removed my card." "You can't just do that, Michael. That's his school. His future." "No," I said. "That's someone else's responsibility now." She paused again, longer this time. I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow, like someone trying to stay polite while rage bloomed in her chest. I knew that breath. I'd heard it before, after PTA meetings, after dental bills, after every moment I suggested her boys might actually need boundaries. "Michael," she said, softening the voice, "please don't do this. Don't make this harder than it already is. Don't make this harder." As if I had kicked in the door. As if I had stood behind a drunk child and told someone I claimed to love, "Just give him the room." I hung up without a word. The next day, Troy called. Not a message. Not a text. A full-blown call. First time in over a year. That alone should have been a warning. "You humiliated us," he said. Not even a hello. I waited. "You think this makes you look strong? You think this proves something?" His voice was tight, pressurized. "It just proves you're petty. You couldn't handle one fight. You're ruining everything." I let him rant, let him dump his poison. I wanted to hear it. Every word, every accusation, every little echo of Amber's voice in his mouth. Because the truth always leaks when people think they're winning the argument. "You're punishing Mom," he spat. "You're punishing me. After everything you paid for. What, you're just walking away now? All because you got your feelings hurt?" Feelings. As if 16 years of labor, silence, and thankless provision boiled down to that one word. Feelings. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because that's when the letter came. A manila envelope. Certified. Legal letterhead. I read it at the kitchen table while my coffee went cold. Not a lawsuit. Not a subpoena. Just noise. A formal complaint that I had abandoned financial obligations previously assumed. Worded like I was a deadbeat father trying to skip out on child support. It cited patterns of contribution, expectations built over time, informal agreements. It was written like someone trying to retroactively convert gratitude into law. But I wasn't worried. Because while they were writing fiction, I'd been building a folder called Reno. Every transaction, every transfer, every receipt from a card they never asked permission to use. Screenshots of Amber texting me, "Can you just cover this for now?" Emails from Troy asking for a little more this month. For groceries, car repairs, new shoes. It was all there. Facts, not feelings. While they spun their story of betrayal, I was building a record of truth. Not to punish them, not to win. Just so I could look in the mirror and know I wasn't crazy. Amber texted again that night. "Can we talk? Please." Privately. She wanted to meet at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Public space. She even offered to drive. I declined. I met her there. She looked tired. Still beautiful. Still in that practiced way she had of looking like the victim even when she was holding the knife. Her first words? "Why are you doing this?" As if she didn't know. As if a kicked-in door and a broken silence were minor things I'd taken too personally. I didn't answer. I slid a folder across the table. The same one I'd been building since I got back. Reno written in clean black ink. She didn't open it. She just looked at me like she couldn't believe I was making this real. "I didn't want it to get ugly," she said. I nodded. "Then you shouldn't have handed your son a boot and pointed him at my door. He was drunk. He didn't mean it." "But you did," I said. "You stood behind him. You watched. You told me to give him the room." She didn't reply. I leaned in, quiet but deliberate. "You chose him, not as your son, as your side. You chose chaos over order, rage over reason, blood over the man who stayed." Her voice cracked. "Don't talk about it like it's a war." "It is a war," I said. "It always was. I just finally stopped pretending I hadn't lost." She blinked hard, like the words stung more than she wanted to show. But she still didn't open the folder. I did. I flipped through the pages slowly. Itemized transactions. Bank records. Copies of tuition statements, car repairs, health insurance premiums. All tied to me. All unpaid now. "You're not their father," she said quietly. "No," I said. "But I was their provider. Now I'm neither." The conversation ended with no hug, no resolution, no promise to speak again. And that was fine, because I'd finally stopped chasing peace with people who fed on my guilt. The next week, Troy posted a passive-aggressive screed on social media. He didn't name me, but it was obvious. Long paragraphs about abandonment, about people who act like family until it's inconvenient, about men who write checks but never showed up emotionally. I screenshotted it, added it to Reno. Then I removed myself from his car's insurance policy. That car, by the way, still registered in my name. I called the DMV, flagged it for repossession, and let the plates expire. If he wanted to drive, he could walk first. The lawyer sent one more letter. A final warning. I ignored it, because facts don't panic. Amber started calling again. More frequently now. Her voice thinner. Less fire, more confusion. "Michael, what are we supposed to do? We weren't ready for this." That made me laugh. Quietly, bitterly. I had been ready for years. I had waited for birthdays to be remembered, for respect to be earned, for a seat at the table that wasn't a placeholder for someone else's shadow. But when the bill finally came due, I paid it. In silence. With receipts. A week later, I got another call. This time from Troy's University. Not a debt collector. A financial aid advisor. She said he had applied for emergency funds but listed me as his sponsor. I corrected her. "I'm no longer a financial guarantor. Please update your records." She asked why. I told her to reference the incident on February 12th. Room 918. Property damage. Verbal threats. A witness. She was quiet for a moment. Then professional again. "Understood, sir." Click. Facts win. Not always quickly. Not always cleanly. But always in the end. That night, I opened the Reno folder one last time. I printed a copy. Bound it. Not for court. Not for revenge. For memory. Because when people rewrite history, you need to own the version they want to forget. They wanted me to fund their lives and disappear in every other way. So I reversed it. I disappeared from their accounts, from their futures, from their story, but not from the truth. The mediation was held in a beige conference room with flickering overhead lights and a fake plant in the corner that looked more alive than anyone seated at that table. The lawyer on Amber's side wore a too-tight suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Troy sat next to him in a wrinkled button-up, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His jaw twitched. His knee bounced under the table. Amber sat beside him, hands folded too neatly in her lap, still wearing the wedding ring, still pretending she hadn't already walked out in all the ways that mattered. Across from them I sat alone. No lawyer. Just me and a folder labeled Reno. The mediator, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and the kind of practiced neutrality that comes from too many years dealing with people who once loved each other, began with introductions. Ground rules. A reminder that this wasn't about blame. That this was about resolution. I nodded. I wasn't here for blame. I was here to put the last nail in the coffin of a house I'd been buried in for years. Troy didn't wait for the mediator to finish. "She abandoned us," he shouted, pointing at me like I was a criminal caught mid-theft. "He just stopped paying. No warning, no explanation. I'm being evicted from my apartment. I'm failing classes because I'm working 2 jobs now." The mediator raised her hand. "Troy," she said, voice calm. "Let's speak one at a time." Amber leaned in, her voice trembling. "Michael, we could have worked something out. You didn't have to be cruel. We were a family. You didn't have to disappear overnight." I opened the folder. I placed a copy of the hotel incident report on the table. Dated, timestamped, 3:07 a.m. Room 918. Property damage, guest disturbance, unauthorized entry. Witness, Amber Reeves. "Let the record show," I said quietly. "I didn't disappear. I was removed." Troy scoffed. "That was one mistake. One boundary," I corrected. "One door. One silence from the person who should have defended me." The mediator asked me to explain the timeline of my financial withdrawal. I laid it out without emotion. I had brought copies of every transaction, every cancellation, every account update. 3:07 a.m., door kicked in. 3:17 a.m., I exited the hotel. 3:52 a.m., credit card disconnected from the tuition portal. Following morning, insurance removal. Day after, apartment lease cosigner revoked. Amber's lawyer tried to object, claiming emotional distress, implied obligations, the established patterns of contribution. He referenced case law, tried to turn receipts into chains. I didn't argue. I simply pushed forward the stack of records, screenshots of texts, emails, payment histories, facts, not feelings. Then I spoke, calm and clear. For 16 years, I carried responsibilities no one asked the biological father to shoulder. I signed leases. I co-signed loans. I paid tuition, insurance, gas, groceries, and legal fees. I absorbed every cost of being a father without ever being given the name. The lawyer shifted in his seat. Amber stared at the table. Troy's face twisted. I continued. "I was told I had no rights, that I was just a wallet, that I wasn't family, that I was, in effect, replaceable. So I gave them what they asked for, distance." Troy banged the table. "You always paid. You're supposed to. That's what you do." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I let the silence settle before I answered. "No, I stopped paying for your mistakes." The mediator gave us a moment. Amber whispered something to Troy, but he shoved her hand away. His mask was slipping now. Too much truth in the room for him to keep pretending he was a victim. When it was Amber's turn to speak, her voice cracked. I didn't know it had gone that far. I didn't mean for him to feel unsupported. It was the first honest thing she'd said since the door was kicked in. But it was too late, because in silence, I had already moved my life out from under theirs. Joint accounts, closed. Shared debts, refinanced under my name only. The house, In my name, legally protected under a prenuptial clause she had forgotten existed. The lawyer brought it up. Your client's name is on nothing. I nodded. Intentional. They had built their lives on the illusion that I would never walk away. That my sense of duty was a leash they could yank. That the weight I carried would always be mine, no matter how little respect they showed in return. They were wrong. The mediator reviewed the documents. She asked Amber if she was contesting the separation of assets. Amber hesitated. Troy whispered something in her ear. She looked at me, looked through me, then shook her head. No, I'm not contesting. It was over. There was no dramatic outburst. No tears. No last-minute pleas for reconciliation. Just papers signed. Pages shuffled. Lives untangled. The mediator asked if we wanted to share final statements. I declined. Troy muttered something under his breath. Amber stared at her hands. And then I walked out. Not with satisfaction. Not with vengeance. With clarity. I didn't go back to the shared house. I didn't leave a note. I didn't check my phone. I went to a rental I'd prepared weeks earlier. Furnished, quiet, with no family photos on the walls. Just blank spaces and new beginnings. That night, I sat alone with a cup of coffee I used to tell myself we couldn't afford. The kind that came in a glass bottle, hand-roasted, shipped from some overpriced cafe in Portland. The kind I used to say no to so we could afford Troy's textbooks. Now I drank it in silence. I didn't celebrate. I just existed. Freely. The next day, Amber called once. I let it ring. Then I blocked the number. She emailed. I archived it. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because going back, even with words like, I'm sorry, would mean erasing everything I had learned in that beige room under fluorescent lights. Respect can't be begged for. It has to be given. And when it isn't, the only power you have left is to stop paying the bill for someone else's contempt. The morning after the divorce papers were finalized, I didn't wake up to shouting. No slamming doors. No footsteps upstairs. No half-heard arguments behind closed bedroom walls. The house didn't stink of Axe body spray or reheated leftovers. There was no rap music bleeding through the ceiling. No passive-aggressive silence at the breakfast table. Just nothing. Silence. Real silence. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of black coffee so expensive it once made Amber roll her eyes when I glanced at it in a store. We don't need that, she said. Troy's textbook list just came out. I bought it anyway now, because now I didn't care about Troy's textbook list. Now I didn't care about Troy at all. The house was too clean, too still. No damp towels on the floor. No shoes scattered by the door. No receipts for Uber Eats stuffed in the couch cushions. Just sunlight cutting across the floorboards like truth. And truth was all I had left. I thought I would feel something, guilt, maybe, sadness. The echo of a life that almost looked like a family. But there was nothing in me except stillness. Not peace exactly, not yet. More like the cold breath that comes before peace. The moment just after collapse, when everything you used to carry is finally quiet. There were no more transfers going out. No more alerts from Troy's tuition portal. No overdraft warnings. No calls from his landlord. I had removed myself from their survival. I had made them real again, people who had to carry their own weight without hiding behind mine. The silence wasn't just a sound. It was a verdict. They had lost their anchor and I had found the surface. I remembered the last dinner we had as a family, if you could call it that. We were at some overpriced restaurant Troy had picked because his friends said it was vibe-y. Dark wood tables. Mason jar cocktails. The kind of place where the steak comes without sides and costs as much as a week's worth of groceries. Troy and his brother laughed the whole time. Amber smiled when they mocked the waiter. They joked about school, about girls, about me. You're nobody, Troy said, grinning as he cut his steak. You just pay. His brother laughed like it was a punchline they'd rehearsed. Amber stared at her plate. She didn't say a word. That was how it always was. She never said the words. She never joined the mockery. She just made space for it. She let them draw the line in the sand and looked away while they dared me to cross it. And I never did. Until now. That night, I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I paid the bill, tip included. Walked out into the night air like I wasn't bleeding inside. But something had shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was gravity. I finally realized I was the only one holding up the structure. And I was done pretending it wasn't collapsing. So I canceled the tuition transfers. I froze the cards. And then I watched the truth arrive like winter. The first week there was confusion. Then came the calls. Then the threats. Then the lawyer. Then mediation. And now there was just peace. Amber was living with her sister, last I heard. Troy was staying on someone's couch, maybe a friend's, maybe a stranger's. He had dropped out of school. Posted some vague status online about being screwed over by toxic family. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't add it to the folder. The folder was closed, because I was done needing proof. Some nights, I still hear phantom sounds. The old noise of that house when it was full of tension. I'll think I hear Troy's voice upstairs, or Amber's sigh behind a closed door. But when I look around, there's nothing. Just empty rooms and clean counters. I sleep now. Really sleep. Not the half-sleep of a man waiting for the other shoe to drop, the thermostat to break, the tire to blow, the phone to ring with another ask. I sleep like a man who owes nothing and is owed even less. It's beautiful. No one comes to the door. No one calls. Amber tried once, an email. She wrote that she missed the life we built. That things had gone too far. That I'd proven my point. As if this was a game. As if I was scoring wins instead of clawing my way out of a house built on conditional love and constant withdrawals. She asked if we could talk. Just talk. I deleted the email. 'Cause I didn't need to talk anymore. I needed the silence more than I ever needed her. I kept thinking back to the early years. The ones I never let myself analyze too closely. Back when Troy was 13 and I first moved in, he used to test me in little ways. Ignored chores. Sarcasm. Disappearing acts. Amber said, "He's just adjusting." I believed her. At 15, he started calling me by my first name. Loudly, purposefully, in front of others. Amber said, "At least he's acknowledging you." I accepted it. At 16, he asked for a car. I bought it. Not because he earned it. Because I thought I could buy my way into a seat at the table. I thought if I just gave enough, he'd see me. Not as a stepfather. As a father. He didn't. At 18, he got into college. I paid. At 19, he spat in my face. "You're not my real dad." And that was the truth. Not the insult. Not the betrayal. The truth. I wasn't his father. I was the man who made sure the light stayed on while he used my last name like toilet paper. I was the one who smiled in family photos while he texted his real dad behind my back. The one who worked late so Amber didn't have to beg her ex-husband for help. And I was done being that man. Done playing a role in a story written by people who never saw me as anything more than a placeholder. So I stepped out of the picture. Clean. Quiet. Permanent. Now I spend my mornings the way I want. No obligations. No battles. I read. I walk. I buy groceries without thinking about who's going to eat them. Cook what I like. I sit on a porch that doesn't echo with someone else's noise. And sometimes when the wind is just right, I laugh. Not loudly. Just a small sound of disbelief. At how long I stayed. At how much I gave. At how blind I was to the simple truth that respect isn't inherited. It's earned. And if someone refuses to give it, then they can live without what you give too. Troy will survive. Amber will explain it all to whoever comes next. And maybe one day, years from now, when the tuition bills come in someone else's name and the gas tank sits empty and the check doesn't arrive on the first of the month, maybe then he'll remember the man who paid without asking, who gave without question, who showed up until the day he finally stopped. And maybe he'll wonder what it cost to stay silent that long. What it took to finally walk away. I won't be there to answer, because peace isn't something you share. It's something you reclaim. And I reclaimed it the moment I stopped apologizing for not being enough for people who were never enough for me. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was I cruel to draw the line? Or did I finally learn what love without respect becomes? A debt, and I was done paying it.